Hello, welcome back to We the People Politics. Today, we will be analyzing Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s role in the 2024 presidential election. We will be observing which states he performs well in, who he takes more voters from, and whether or not he has any chance to become the first truly independent president since George Washington. But first, we will take a look at who Robert F. Kennedy Jr. actually is. As his name implies, he is the son of former Attorney General and Senator Robert F. Kennedy, who was the brother of President John F. Kennedy. RFK is married to actress Cheryl Hines and has 6 children. He has been a notable environmental lawyer, fighting for the environment by starting the Waterkeeper Alliance, founding the Pace Environmental Litigation Clinic, negotiating the New York City Watershed Agreement, and much more. He has voiced his support for renewable energy and fought to stop companies from building factories, dams, and pipelines on Native American lands. He has also fought for safe vaccines, finding vaccines that include thimerosal, arguing that the COVID-19 vaccines are unsafe, and serving as the chairman of the Children's Health Defense. He announced his candidacy for the Democratic nomination against President Joe Biden on April 5th, 2023. However, he dropped out of the race and announced he would run as an independent candidate on October 9th, arguing that since the Democratic Party would not allow him to debate Biden, he would no longer seek their nomination. Regarding his political views, his foreign policy is inherently non-interventionist. He has been very critical of Biden's involvement in Ukraine and is staunchly opposed to the military-industrial complex. He has also reversed his position on the U.S.-Mexico border crisis, stating that the opening of the border and the influx that is coming in is an existential threat to our country. He believes that wealthy people should pay more in taxes and that they are largely responsible for the shrinking middle class. Now that we have a basic overview of who Kennedy is and where he stands, we can take a look at what his impact on the election will look like. So, without further ado, let's get analyzing. In national polls, Kennedy tends to receive 5 to 13% of the vote, garnering 8% in a recent poll conducted on February 10th. If you look at a recent Signal poll, Trump leads Biden head to head by 1 point. However, with Kennedy on the ballot, his lead expands to 2 points. Go down to a slightly less recent Tip Insights poll, you can see that Trump's lead expands from 2 to 6 points with Kennedy on the ballot. As we can see, Kennedy seems to take more voters from Biden than Trump in the national polls. However, elections are not decided by the popular vote, but rather by the states. So we will take a look at the swing states and see what Kennedy's impact will be. Starting with Nevada, Trump leads Biden by an average of 5 points using polls from this year. However, with Kennedy and other third parties included in these polls, Trump's average increases to 7.5 points, a 2.5% swing. In these polls, Kennedy receives an average of 8.5%. In the state of Arizona, Trump's 3 point lead in a recent Morning Consult poll increases to 8 points with Kennedy on the ballot. Kennedy garners 10 points in this poll, as well as a recent December poll. Moving over to Nebraska's 2nd District, there are no polls for the 2024 election. However, I think Kennedy will likely take the same amount of votes from Biden and Trump. And since it went for Biden by 6.5 points in 2020, I will give it to Biden for this scenario. Before we head over to Minnesota, we will take a look at Wisconsin and Michigan. In Wisconsin, the land of cheese, Trump and Biden's tie in a recent January poll turns into a Trump lead of 3 points with Kennedy on the ballot. A slightly less recent morning consult poll has Trump's lead of 5 increased to 8% with Kennedy on the ballot. Kennedy gets anywhere between 7 and 16% of the vote. In the state of Michigan, Trump's lead of 2 points turns to 5 in a recent February poll and 5 to 6 points in a recent morning consult poll. While Kennedy seems to help Trump in these Midwestern states, he seems to significantly hurt Haley as her double-digit lead in Wisconsin turns into a Biden plus 9 points scenario. In Michigan, her 1 point lead also becomes a Biden plus 9 point scenario, with Kennedy receiving a whopping 23% of the vote, only 3 points behind Haley. However, returning to a Biden plus Trump scenario, Kennedy's presence seems to boost Trump in the polls for these Midwestern states. Now, if we return to Minnesota, which does not include Kennedy in the polls, Biden leads Trump by only 2 to 3 points head to head. If we factor in Kennedy's boost to Trump in the Midwestern states, plus Trump's tendency to overperform the polls, I think that Minnesota, for the first time since 1972, will actually vote Republican. Moving way down to the south, in the states of Georgia and North Carolina, Kennedy's presence appears to help Trump in North Carolina, but hurt him slightly in Georgia. Trump has consistently polled at 8% in the Peach State this year. However, his lead drops to 7% in a morning consult poll that includes Kennedy. The morning consult poll in North Carolina, however, sees Trump's lead expand from 10 to 13 points with Kennedy on the ballot. Kennedy receives slightly less than 10 points in these states. In our final swing state, Pennsylvania, Kennedy shrinks Biden's lead in a Quinnipiac poll from 3 to 2%. He increases it in a Franklin and Marshall College poll from 1 to 5%, and does not alter Trump's lead in a morning consult poll. So it is difficult to determine his impact on the race. However, I would wager that him taking blue-collar voters from Biden, like in the Midwestern states, would give Trump the edge. With all of that said, Kennedy's impact on the race, at least according to the polls, seems to be in favor of Trump, especially in the Midwest and specifically Minnesota, as I think Trump could definitely flip it this time around. Trump with 322 electoral votes to Biden with 216. What states does Kennedy do best in? Well, there are not that many states that even have at least one poll that includes him. But there are 3 states that have him at least 20% of the vote. The first is the aforementioned state of Michigan, where his 23% of the vote is only 3 points behind Nikki Haley. The second state is the state of South Carolina, where he garners 20% of the vote, only 5 points behind President Biden. The final and most impressive state is Tennessee, where it has Kennedy up by 4 points ahead of Biden's measly 18%. This was the only poll that I could find of the independent candidate beating the incumbent president, but it certainly is impressive. As for his chances of winning, I think he would have to qualify for the debate and completely demolish Biden and Trump to have even a remote chance at winning the White House. But what do you think? You can comment down below your thoughts on Kennedy's bid for office. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you liked the video. Whether you do or don't, I hope you enjoyed this, and I do hope to see you in the next video.